Erica Robinson here from In the Company of Cards. So a couple of videos ago, I solicited questions from the readership, and I did get a few. Please keep them coming. But I thought I would answer some of them today. So the first question cut right to the chase and asked, will the electors certify the election? Certification comes after the election has already happened and some days after that. So will they certify? So the cards that I pulled five, are the cross, the heart, the mice, the key, and the clouds. So let me say what I can say about these. Let's see. What did I say? I will say that don't love the cross here. The cross is, if you think about what a cross is, it's a religious symbol. But why is it a religious symbol? Because it was an instrument of torture. Now, sometimes a cross is okay. It can stand for altruism or something like that, self-sacrifice. But it's, bottom line, we're talking pain. So I think things will not be as smooth as I would like to tell you that they will be. Especially when I mirror this card, which just means compare it with clouds. I don't think that things will be as cut and dried as we would like. I mean, I think they will be on the one hand, because I think it will be a landslide election. That's just my feeling for Harris-Walz. But, monkey business will be monkey business. And so there will be some doubt, some confusion. There are some people still who are in love with their cause. Their cause, of course, is 45. That's just is what it is. The key, I like the key. I call it the fraternal twin of the sun. So, it answers questions, it unlocks doors. And we have the mice. Mice is about anxiety, stress, worry. So here's what I think, looking at all of these cards together. I think that there will be an attempt or talk of attempts to not certify. Apparently, there are certain states that 45's got in the bag, whose officials have already said that they will not certify. But I think there may be second thoughts about all that, especially if it looks like a rout. Rout meaning landslide. You don't want to be on the wrong side of this. If Harris is when Harris becomes the president. So there may be people who get cold feet, who are waving the flag and telling 45 and his people, yeah, we're not going to certify, but they may chicken out, I think, in the end. But if there's a little bit of a blip, I would not worry about it. It will all work out the way that it's supposed to. Okay. Another question that I got asked has to do with the job market and how moving forward the job market will be for people graduating from college. It's rough out there, right? So what I do is I shuffle, cut the deck into 3 piles. And then I look in the deck, I flip through the cards one by one until I get to the card that represents the job market. And for our purposes, I'm going to use the fox. The fox is the French traditional card for job. And here's my fox. So this will stand for job. I'm going to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to pull 2 cards to the left of it, and then 2 cards to the right of it. All right. So even though the elector question was a little bit iffy. This one is more certain, and I really like what we've got here. So we've got the bear, we've got the older man, we've got the fox in the middle, and then we've got these beautiful cards at the end. We've got the lily and we've got the stork. If you read Lenormand, you already know what I'm going to say. Bear. First of all, the bear here doesn't mean 45. Here, the bear stands for a the stock market. This is the card for, investments and the markets and big money. And so I like seeing this here, especially because it's followed by this card. This card is Biden. Just saying. He's doing everything he can to reduce college debt. He's doing everything that he can to help the economy. And I think he will do everything he can in the coming months to make the job market better. Again, here's our card for the job market. And then, like I said, we've got these two beautiful cards. Don't worry, be happy. Everything's going to be all right. We know who said that first, and I'm saying it here again. The lily is the card for peace, ease, security, confidence. All will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. Another quote. And then, in case we didn't get the message, we end with the stork. The stork is about positive change. So will the job market writ large improve? Yes. Will the job market for new college graduates improve in the next months to year? Absolutely. Yes. That's what the cards say. Okay. Another question I was asked was about Canada. I love Canada, love Canadians, and I have a lot of Canadian viewers, and I appreciate that. And the question was, how will things be for Canada in the lead up to their elections? Okay, so it's a pretty general question, but let's just ask that. So you know what I'm gonna do? I always like to pull a focus card. Sometimes I don't, but a lot of times I do. Most times I do. And that would be the card in the center, just like the previous reading where the fox was in the center um, for job market. And here I'm going to look for the dog. Now, why am I looking for the dog? Because listen, I love Canadians. I think they're very friendly. I know it's a stereotype, but I have found it to be pretty much true. The dog is the card for the friend. So I'm going to flip my cards one by one. Don't worry, it's not like tarot with 78 cards. I only have 36 to flip. So I'm going to flip the cards, and I found it, till I get to the dog. This is the card that will be in the center of the 5-card spread, and it will stand for Canada. Okay. I'm taking the 2 cards that precede it and put them to the left. And then I have cards still in my hand, and I'm just taking the 2 cards and putting them to the right. And that gives me the 5-card spread. So how will things go for Canada between now and their election cycle? So we have crossroads, we have house, there's our dog standing for Canada, we have snake, and we have the rider. Okay, interesting. So let me say this. Just as has been the case in the US, just as has been the case in France, just as has been the case in the UK, all of us have had an opportunity of late to decide who it is that we want to be. Crossroads is about choices. Do we want to go this way as a country? Do we want to go that way as a country? Canada is no exception to that rule. And a lot of times things down here in the lower 50 can tend to kind of seep up. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not great. So, Canada, of course, has had its own issues, as have other parts of the world with right-wing extremists wanting their way. And so in this case, the House, which is the next card, stands really for identity. Who does Canada want their identity to be? What does Canada want their identity to be? This will be the question. Again, our friend Canada is in the center. Now, here's what's interesting. The snake. Generally, in Lenormand, the snake is a problem. And I am not going to sugarcoat this card here. What they say, you've got to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince or your princess or whatever. We've gone through our silly season down here in the lower 50. So has France with Le Pen. Entertainment purposes only. I love when I have to say that. Canada, you are also going through your silly season. It's problematic and it's stress-inducing. But let me say this. This is my deck, of course, that I'm using, Erica's Lenormand of Hope, and there's the snake. I don't love snakes. Generally speaking, they indicate a problem. But when I was putting together this card, I asked my artist, whose name is also Erica Peebus, her work is terrific. I asked her to make it very clear that there is another very important meaning to this card. Now, I didn't know this card was going to come up in my reading today, so I love that it did because I purposely wore my snake earrings. Now, as somebody who doesn't like snakes, you might be saying, well, why is she wearing snake earrings? Because you see this slithering snake. This snake is slithering through mugwort, which is a plant. And mugwort is a feminine plant, considered a feminine plant, that is used in divination, which of course is what I'm doing here. And it's also used in healing, which is to say that one of the often forgotten meanings of the snake is a clever woman. So I don't know who your politicians are in Canada, but I will say that don't be surprised if there aren't clever women, who come to the fore to help you wrestle with this question about who it is that you want to be. And the last card in the line is the Rider. And the Rider is just news coming in. So the news that will come in, remember, it's right next to the snake. So the news coming in will be probably twofold. Like on the one hand, oh my God, problems coming. This is no easy picnic in the park, but it hasn't been for any Western nation so far, right? So why would Canada be an exception? But it could also very well be that you should be on the lookout for female politicians who can help set you on a good path. Love my neighbors to the north. Thank you so much for the question. Another viewer question had to do with the political fortunes of the Texas politician, Beto O'Rourke. If you remember, he ran for president the last cycle or the one before that, I don't know, and sort of crashed and burned. I feel as though he kind of, and I get why, was sort of styling himself as a modern day JFK. And the problem was that I feel like I think he's a great guy. Love him, but I think he needed some seasoning, some time in the crucible before he could think about putting his hand in his hat in the ring again. Uh, I still consider him young, relatively speaking. So what I'm going to do is for him, I'm going to use the young man. Again, I think his edges have been sanded off. I think he's been sort of, he sees the lay of the land better than he saw it before. I know he's doing a lot in Texas now for voter registration, which is terrific. But let's use the young man for him. I'm cutting the deck again into 3 piles. And I'm just going to flip the cards until I get to the young man that will represent Beto O'Rourke, and we will pull 4 cards around him to get our line of 5 and see how things are going for him. Okay, so this is the card that will stand for Beto O'Rourke. Putting that in the center, taking the 2 cards that precede him in the deck, and then the 2 cards that follow him in the deck. So I have again the lily, and while this is a beautiful card, again, peace, ease, maturity. I think that the important thing to remember is maturity. The last card in the line is the key, and I can read these 2 together. It's called mirroring. So remember, I talked before I even pulled the cards about needing to be seasoned, needing to spend some time in the crucible of things, to not be so full of hubris and think that this thing should be yours for the taking, because I think that was the problem the first time. But the key is the answer to things. So being seasoned, taking these years to do that kinds of grassroots organizing that he's doing is really a seasoning way for him to spend his time. Really, really smart, really, really good. Now, hold on. The ring. I like the ring here because the ring is sort of him showing commitment and consistency and fidelity to his state and therefore to his country. So that's great. There he is. That's that young energy of Beto O'Rourke. And then we have the young woman. And again, I always hate to do it. I feel like I'm downplaying her or sort of making her smaller, but I'm not. She is just the yin to this yang. And his yin and yang really needed to be balanced. So I like that these 2 cards have both come out in this reading. This is the one who just feels like everything is possible and he's going to do it today and nobody's going to tell him no and he's just going to go all the way. Well, that's how he was the last time he ran, right? He has, this has been tempered in him, and this is really all to the good. So I think that he's being watched in the best way, observed, I guess we'll call it. And that I think he is going to be on the ascendancy. I do think he will be on the national stage in some capacity moving forward. So I'm glad that the question was asked because he gave everybody a sort of a shot in the arm, a lot of hope at a time when that was welcome. And he has used the time since, I think, really, really to his advantage and to our advantage in time as well. So thank you for that question. Okay. The last question is about Pete Buttigieg. Now, when I was doing my video on the Harris pick for vice president, I kind of made short shrift of Pete Buttigieg in the sense that I was able to eliminate him quite fast. Uh, this is not my opinion. Had nothing I read really has to do with my opinion. I have opinions, but then I go to the cards and I put my ego and my opinion in the back seat, as I say in my book, The Language of Lenormand, and I read what the cards tell me, right? And I just saw that he was not going to make the short list. But the question that I've been asked by a viewer is whether Buttigieg would be offered a cabinet post. So let's look at that. I think I will use, just to show you how cards can work, I'm going to use the same card that I already used for Beto O'Rourke. I'm going to use the young man because, again, relative to a lot of people in politics, Buttigieg is on the young side, right? So we're going to shuffle, 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 and then I will cut the deck again into 3 piles. So I'm shuffling. And then we will look one by one through the cards until we get to the young man. This time I'm charging the energy of the young man card for Pete Buttigieg. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So hold on. What did I do? I have to shuffle a little better. You know how something will come up and you're like, that's not right. All right. Please ask questions here. I love talking to my cards. I love keeping company with my cards. I want to remind you also that you can find my work in written form on Substack, where where you can see the actual full spread. Sometimes I use tarot as well as the Adinkra, which is an African oracle, alongside Lenormand. Sometimes I just use Lenormand, but I will do a written reading. And so if you would like a written answer to your questions, go to Substack and leave me a comment and I will be happy to answer those questions there. I generally don't answer the same questions on both platforms. So toggle, as they say, between both platforms and you get a lot of information. Okay, we're going to look again now for Pete Buttigieg, and we are looking at whether or not he will be offered a cabinet position. Okay, popped up pretty quick. And I think that's good. Okay. So the cards are the anchor, the whip, there's Pete, the book, and the garden. So those are the five questions. I mean, 5 cards that came up. So I'm putting them back in order so I can talk about them individually. Now, the anchor. It is a dual purpose nautical instrument. And as I've mentioned before in other videos, it's oxymoronic because an anchor can keep us safe or it can keep us pulled down, right? Here, I think I like it. We'll see. And I can mirror it with the last card that popped up, which is the garden. So the question really will be, he's got a cabinet position right now, right? He's head of transportation. The question is it not perhaps the case that he will best serve by staying in his position? Can he best serve the public, it's the garden, by staying in the cabinet position that he has now? I mean, obviously he'd have to be re-invited to, re-offered the position. So is that the best thing? Now, The next card is the whip, and I can mirror that with the fourth card, which is the book. Now, let me say this about the whip. Generally, nobody likes a whip. I mean, I'm Black. I definitely not a fan of the whip card. However, sometimes I do like it. The whip is, for example, the card for the athlete. You're watching the Olympics, I hope, right? It's the card for the writer. In other words, it's the card of discipline, hard work, attention to detail, um, focus. It's that kind of a card. And there is a question that Mayor Pete will have to ponder, which is because here this is something we don't know. Remember, right? Normally, books hold information, but sometimes not so much. In Lenormand, the book most often will refer to things that we don't know, things that are hidden. I think what will be asked by the Harris-Walz administration is, can these energies, these Pete Buttigieg energies, be better served elsewhere? We don't know. So he may be offered something else that's not transportation. Now, God knows transportation is important, right? Rebuilding the infrastructure. I mean, that's very important. But I think he might be asked whether there's something else that he would like to turn his time and attention to. So the question was, will he be offered a cabinet position? 100%. And I think it will be up to him whether he keeps transportation or whether he is rewarded with something that he would rather put his hand to. Okay. So thank you for those questions. Hope this was helpful and instructive, both in terms of answering the questions and also in terms of showing you a little bit more about how Lenormand works. And thank you for subscribing, for liking, for sharing, all of those things. I really appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Remember, please do check me out over at Substack. Same title, it's still In the Company of Cards. And I'll see you in my next video.